I have no acting experience. I took a performing arts class in high school because it was required, but I don't think I learned anything. I don't really remember. But having experience as an actor would have been nice because I do like to play with characters a little bit in my stand-up. I think that's very fun to do. But I make the typical mistake most stand-ups make, and I overact. It comes out more of a caricature instead of a real person. And caricatures can be funny, but they can also be hacky and feel stale very quickly. Rather than creating a caricature, it's better if you can make a real person funny. It's better if it's all grounded in a real person. So you have to fight your impulse to move toward the goofy, cartoonish portrayal. Rookie mistake. You got to try to push closer to an actual flesh and blood human being that people could believe exists. I came across an interview with this actor, Martin Landau. He was in a bunch of TV shows and films. Probably no one old enough to remember or care about him is likely to watch this. Sorry for saying that, but I don't know. I didn't know anything about him. But anyway, I saw this interview that he did where he says, no one tries to cry in real life. You try not to, right? Only bad actors try to cry. Only bad actors try to act drunk. A drunk wants another drink. He doesn't want anyone to know. Ooh, that's perceptive, right? That's great. That's great advice. Behave as an actual human being would behave in the situation you've set up. Maybe that should be completely obvious, but don't concoct something because you think it'll be funny. That won't play naturally. You want it all to play naturally. So that's something I try to think about in my writing, but I'll get reminders that I failed to follow that principle because I'll try to do the joke with the caricature version, and that'll generally get a more lukewarm reaction. And then I'll remember, I'm doing that thing where I'm pretending to do a thing for the bit, but that's not how it would organically be in real life. So it feels false, right? How would it organically happen in real life? What's false? What's not? What's ringing false that I'm doing here? How do I rewrite this so that I'm still making the joke, but people feel like it's more grounded in reality? How do I make this less of a cartoon and more relatable? Part of the problem is, stand-up pushes you to be a cartoon. You've got a group of people staring at you. They're expecting something. You want them to give you all this energy of laughter. That's a big, loud emotion, So the natural impulse is to think you have to give them this big, expressive energy first in order to pull that energy out of them. You got to Will Ferrell it. You got to Chris Farley it. Love Will Ferrell and Chris Farley, but I don't know, in stand-up, that's kind of a trick. It burns everybody out. People lose interest. It becomes too much of a gimmick if you're overly cartoonish. It's bad acting. It's trying to cry. Not that I think Will Ferrell or Chris Farley are bad actors. I love many of their movies, but movies versus stand-up, they're different animals. I remember I was watching a TV show that had gotten excellent reviews, and I was kind of 50-50 on it after several episodes. And at the end of one of the episodes, this guy, one of the main characters, he just starts sobbing on a bench. Puts his face in his hands, and starts sobbing. And it was the least believable thing I've ever seen. It was kind of funny. It was a comedy. But they didn't mean this to be funny, I don't think. It was supposed to be this dramatic part, this dramatic thing, and it read completely false. I stopped watching the show. I haven't gone back to it. And I don't know, I thought, okay, fine, he's a youngish actor, he doesn't know how to cry, whatever. I can't cry on film on command either. But then, an editor and a director greenlit that to stay in the final cut of the show, and I thought, I don't know, how good can this really be? If they're leaving that in. It just completely took me out of it. Maybe I'm being too judgmental, but I don't know. It really jumped the shark for me right there. So I think about that now. I don't want to throw off the integrity of everything else I'm doing with my jokes by presenting a character that rings false. But I still want to play with characters because that can be fun. So it's a balance. I got to figure it out. There's a humor writer, Mike Sachs, wrote for The New Yorker, lots of other magazines. He's done 2 books of interviews with other comedy writers. One's called And Here's the Kicker. The other is Poking a Dead Frog. There's an interview in And Here's the Kicker with Meryl Marco. She wrote on a number of comedy TV shows. She says, Real human beings don't behave in big, broad strokes. They behave with tiny, exacting, site-specific details. Your stupid McDonald's employee should be different than mine. I hate cliches. I want to hear an individual point of view. I don't want the same Jewish mother or black church lady. I want to see the one you know. Aside from throwing McDonald's employees under the bus, I think it's a great quote. I'm definitely guilty of painting in big, broad strokes, and it's simply not as interesting. It's better if you can portray the tiny, exacting little details and quirks. That's more true to life. But it's tempting to paint in big, broad strokes because people will get what you're talking about. They'll latch onto it more easily. But it's never as interesting. There can't be as much depth and truth there. So you don't want to be a cartoon. You don't want to be a caricature. You want to portray a character how a person could actually be. And you got to do the work to have the little details in that portrayal that make it unique and interesting and believable. You can't really make that stuff up. It has to be a person you're intimately familiar with. You can't write in that fine detail and portray it if you've just read an article about such a person. You need to know that type of person in some way in real life, and then you have to put yourself in their shoes. I don't know that I ever actually succeed in doing that, but it's something to aspire to. Should probably still take some acting classes, do some community theater, or just get out and meet more people so I can mine their personalities for my art. That's not narcissistic, right?